Journaling is a wonderful, wonderful tool that you can use when you're dealing with cancer. It can be a very safe place to go. It could be a friend. It's very healing. And I think that you'll find if you try it, it will be very useful. The key to healing using expressive writing is to not only write about the events, but to write about your response to them. I know people who take their journals with them and write as they're getting chemo, which is quite wonderful. You can write in the journal, obviously, when you're feeling terrible. You can write about how you feel terrible, and that's fine and it's valid. You may be able to just go with that for a while. The other thing to note is that you can use the journal to write about things that'll help you feel better. So for instance, if you come home from a treatment and you're feeling really lousy, take your journal, you don't have to write a lot, and you might want to write a list of, say, 5 things that have happened in the past year that made you happy. Okay, you might want to write a list of people in your life who you can count on for being there for you. The entry doesn't have to be long. The entry could be 2 words. The entry could be, crap, I hate this. You can do that too. The journal can be used even when you're not feeling well. And more importantly, you don't have to do it. Like I said before, the journal doesn't have to be at any particular interval. If you're too tired for it, wait. When you feel a little better, a couple hours, the next day, something like that, you can go back to it. Well, the journal is a wonderful place for dumping feelings. You can say what you need to say orally, that's fine, but some people find that when they're having a hard time with something, if they write it down, they're able to get it out of their systems and move on, which is quite wonderful. The journal is the place to be self-centered in the best sense of the word. Okay, you're allowed to write about yourself. You're allowed to be with yourself. And for many people who are dealing with cancer, writing about how they're feeling, what's going on, all that is great. It's a wonderful catharsis. People think a journal has to be only words, okay? And they also think journaling has to be their own words. What I did today, how I felt about it, what I'm thinking, all of that. And all of that is absolutely fine, but there are other things you can bring to a journal. This is my current journal. This is a ticket to a movie that I went to with a friend. That's when the ticket booth person said to me, "Oh, you must be a senior. I'll charge you less." That was the first time that happened, so I put it in my journal. In here was an article that I cut out that spoke to me. Not only can these things go in here, but sometimes you want to respond to them. So let's say, for instance, these are Dove Bar chocolates. They're little messages on the outside, and they spoke to me. There's something called art journaling now. That involves a lot of, collaging and things like that, which is great. You might want to check that out. The journal is bigger than what you might have thought. It's not just writing down today's what happened, but in fact, it's bringing things together, the point of which is to help you express yourself one way or the other. I recommend that you date the journal on the day that you're writing it, so that if you ever go back and reread it, you'll be able to place that in time. I think that's very important. Something else I recommend that you do when you keep a journal is to give a title to the entry after you've written it. So the title might be something like, how chemo went today, or it might be something about I'm feeling a little less afraid. Because that way, if you go back and entitle your entry after you've written it, you'll be able to access the entries that you want to read only. One thing you might want to consider using as well is color. I have different color pens that I write with. I know people who write different colors to stand for different issues, so that your financial life you might write in green and your spiritual life it may be purple, something like that, again, which will give you access. You can also use wonderful tools like highlighters, markers, things like that are absolutely great to use. By the way, also, if you're comfortable on a computer and you prefer it for writing, you can keep your journal on a computer. One of the ways to keep a journal, actually is my favorite, is to keep a journal with lists. You're used to lists in your life, of course, in terms of what you have to do today, shopping lists, things like that. But lists are great in the journal for several reasons. One is that it's short. You don't have a lot of time, it's fine. Number 2, you don't have to be a good writer. It's just about a list. You don't have to worry about sentence fragments or things like that. And 3, it's about content. Lists go right to the heart of the matter, and that's what we're trying to do with the journal. I'd like to recommend a couple of lists. These are my favorites, really. One list would be a list of dependable joys. What, even as you're dealing with cancer, can you count on to help yourself feel a teeny bit better? Another list you might want to try as you're dealing with cancer is actually 2 lists in one. One would be a list of things you currently believe in, and another would be a list of things that you no longer believe. Another list you might want to use is a list of healing places. Where have you been, or where can you imagine, or where have you seen pictures of that somehow make yourself feel good? Oftentimes it's a beach, but there are many other places as well. If you're lucky, it's your own living room. Sometimes I, like many people, get into this negative mode of thinking. And when I do that, what I force myself to do at the end of each day is to write a list entitled, "What pleased me today?" Note, it's what pleased me, it's not what thrilled me to pieces, what pleased me today. And I can't prove this, but I think when I know I'm going to keep the list of what pleased me today, I think I look for those things and perhaps even create them.